On an August morning in 1977, a small, fragile spacecraft, no larger than an ordinary car, rose from the Florida coast and vanished into the sky. Its name was Voyager 2. It was built to survive just a few years, to visit the giant planets, and then fade quietly into the dark, but it refused to fade. It flew past worlds no human eyes had ever seen up close, sent home images that became history, and drifted onward into a realm no probe had entered before. Now, more than 4 decades later, at the outer edge of the sun's influence, it has done something no one expected. It sent back a set of images. And then it went silent. The photographs weren't remarkable because of their beauty, but because of what they seemed to show. And now, with a date looming on the horizon that no one can explain, one question is spreading through the halls of science and into the quiet corners of the internet. Did Voyager 2 discover something, or did something discover it? Voyager's cameras had been switched off since 1989 after its last great encounter with Neptune. They were considered unnecessary, a dormant relic of 1970s technology. But in early 2025, engineers decided to try them one final time, a brief calibration, just to see what the void looked like from 12 billion miles away. For several days, the pictures showed nothing unusual, just scattered stars, drifting dust, and the faint static of infinity. Then something appeared. A shadow, triangular in shape, faint but distinct, slid across the edge of one frame. It was dismissed as interference, cosmic noise, a glitch. But the next frame caught it again, closer this time. It wasn't random. NASA labeled it Anomaly X7. Longer exposures revealed something immense, tens of miles wide, glowing faintly in infrared. It had structure. It had symmetry. And in the final frame, it appeared to be facing Voyager. Hours later, the image stream ended. Not from a hardware failure, not from lack of power, but as if the camera simply chose never to open again. Voyager kept transmitting its basic data. But 72 hours later, something even stranger happened. The probe rotated, not a random drift, but a smooth, precise 14 degrees turn. No commands had been sent. And now its high-gain antenna was aimed directly back at Earth. Soon after, its instruments detected a new signal, a low repeating hum every 17 seconds. It wasn't ordinary background noise. Patterns began to emerge. Binary code, a countdown. Every cycle, the numbers dropped. The last number in the sequence matched a specific date. July 28, 2025. Inside NASA, quiet urgency became private alarm. Meetings multiplied. Agencies compared nodes. Theories emerged. Radiation interference, gravitational lensing, but none explained the rotation, the images, and the signal together. Some began to suspect Voyager 2 had captured something it was never meant to see. Something ancient, something still functioning. The final image was not static, not chaos. Filtered and analyzed, it revealed lines mathematical in nature, echoing patterns found in the Fibonacci sequence. It was as though the picture itself contained a structure that refused to decay. When its orientation shift was overlaid with the framing of that last photograph, they matched exactly, pointing toward whatever the probe had aligned itself to face next. Then came the strangest part. Subsystems thought long dead began to stir. Old detectors blinked online. Data storage units whirred for the first time in decades. It was as though Voyager was rearranging itself without command. No one could explain how. Researchers at the European Space Agency analyzed the hum and found it wasn't just ordered. It mirrored the structure of early human radio transmission. Voyager 2 was never designed for this. Yet somehow it may have made the first human contact with something beyond us, something aware. If that's true, then when we reactivated its eyes after decades of blindness, we didn't just look outward over and over. To anyone else, it was just a pulse. But inside that rhythm, there was architecture, layers within layers, like a message folded in on itself. At first, the engineers tried to treat it like every other anomaly. Measure, compare, archive, move on. But this didn't move on. In the weeks after the final image, the signal began to change. Not in tone or strength, but in texture. Hidden in the binary stream were fluctuations that, when mapped in 3 dimensions, form shapes, not random shapes. They matched the geometry of the shadow Voyager had photographed. Triangular, repeating, rotating through space like a blueprint. Every time the pattern looped, the blueprint became more complete. As though the signal itself was building something. NASA was no longer alone in watching. Radio observatories in Chile, South Africa, and Australia began logging faint echoes of the same pulse reflected through interstellar space. It was spreading like a ripple crossing a dark ocean. And then the ripple changed course. The frequency shifted slightly enough for long-range antennas to triangulate its apparent origin point. It wasn't coming from deep space anymore. It was coming from behind Voyager. This discovery forced a question no one wanted to ask. Had Voyager simply stumbled upon something, or had something started following it? The mathematics pointed to a mass large enough to be detected, small enough to hide in the black. It was invisible in visible light, but infrared readings showed a faint cold glow, closing the gap. And then it stopped. When the object halted, the pulse stopped, too. In its place came silence. That silence lasted exactly 17 seconds. Then a new sound emerged, a distortion unlike anything Voyager had recorded before. It was lower, slower, and carried harmonics far outside the range of human hearing. Only by slowing it down 1,000-fold did it reveal a chilling detail. It was the same pulse, but now it was our signal. Earth's own earliest broadcasts. Television static, old music, weather reports, all inverted. It was as if something had been listening to us for a very, very long time. The countdown kept ticking toward July 28, 2025. But now, it wasn't just numbers. Between each drop in the sequence, the blueprint in the binary stream gained new lines, curves, and structures. Specialists in fractal mathematics noticed something unnerving. Each update made the design more dimensional. By the third week of decoding, the pattern could no longer be represented on a flat screen. It required a simulation that rendered in 4 dimensions, 3 of space, 1 of time. Inside that simulation, the structure wasn't still. It was moving, slowly, rotating, folding in ways that suggested it wasn't a ship or a station or even a conventional object. It behaved more like a thought. Behind closed doors, debates turned into arguments. Was this a message, a warning, a lure? One group argued for immediate transmission of a response. Another warned that sending anything back could be the very thing it wanted. The final decision was silence for now. But silence didn't matter because late one night in June, Deep Space Network stations received a short burst of data. Not from Voyager, from somewhere else. It was a mirror of Voyager's own signal. Only now the countdown was gone. In its place, coordinates. Coordinates that pointed not 12 billion miles away, but directly toward Earth's orbit. The last 2 weeks before July 28 would become the most closely monitored in human history. Every telescope pointed outward, every radio dish tuned.